The new patch notes for MultiVersus are here, and well, the patch in general is here, but instead of making a video going over the patch notes, I wanted to talk about something else. Every single time a new patch drops, my impressions are exactly the same. The new content looks great, but the balance is pretty questionable. MultiVersus has dramatic balance changes more often than any other fighting game on the market right now, and I don't think that that's a good thing. Characters will come out and less than a month later, they're being nerfed or buffed. Now I understand small tweaks if the character is breaking the game, but dramatic changes are something that I usually disagree with on a fundamental level. Let's look back to Gizmo. Gizmo came out and first impressions were that he was on the weaker side. About a week or so after his release, some pretty insane strategies were being found with Gizmo. Turns out that the character was just weird, not weak. So what does Player First Games do? They took the first impressions as law, and the very next patch they buffed Gizmo, even though he was a pretty strong character and viable. Wonder Woman was a very similar situation. The game came out and Wonder Woman was the free character that everyone got for completing the tutorial. Her online win rate and her stats were pretty bad, and she wasn't winning as much as the rest of the cast. Then, a couple of weeks later, she won EVO. Wonder Woman won the most stacked tournament MultiVersus has seen to date, even beating Velma and Bugs Bunny. So what do Player First Games do? The very first patch after EVO, they buff Wonder Woman. They never considered that her weak stats in online performance might have just been because that's the character you give new players for beating the tutorial. So most of the people playing Wonder Woman are pretty bad at the game and are very new. That probably explained her bad online win rate. I don't think a character who can win tournaments as stacked as EVO needs any kind of love in the patch notes or balance. This patch, it happened again. They released Stripe and they absolutely gutted him less than a month later. His gunshot has a 14-second wait time between shots now. 14 seconds. In a game where matches only last a couple of minutes. Now to be fair, he might still be okay after the nerfs, but it's still just so strange to me that he's been hit so hard so soon. I didn't really think he was game-breakingly strong. I thought he was really good, sure, but Stripe's playstyle is a counter-meta playstyle. He kills button mashers. He kills people that resort to their flowchart and are really not using their air dodges at appropriate times, and he just kills people that use the resources too much. So yeah, that type of character doing well online makes sense to me. He also has projectiles, so I figured the high win rate was fine. But no, he got hit extremely hard and he hasn't even been to any major tournaments yet. Before we go any further in the video, I want to bring up a clip from Hold Back to Block's incredible documentary about Killer Instinct. If you're unaware of what Killer Instinct is, it was a low-budget fighting game from 2013 that still holds up today as one of the best fighting games of all time. The developers really knew what they were doing, and if you want to know more, I highly recommend you check out the documentary. Today we're going to be looking at a small clip where one of the lead developers, Keats, talks about balance. Tell me if anything you hear in this clip sounds familiar or sounds like it applies to MultiVersus.
You know, instead of having the live streams for character reveals and balance reveals be showed off by community managers, what if the combat design team was on the couch doing it? And we could really explain ourselves and really talk to people about not only what we did, but why we did it. I call it a failed experiment because what I think it ended up doing was also poisoning the well in a kind of way. It kind of spoiled people. There were definitely a group of players who considered themselves top players who became more interested in influencing the development of the game than they became interested in solving the game and being great at it. And that resulted in a lot of ultra negativity, a lot of, kind of rallying their fans to kind of become a bandwagon of kind of hatred and negativity towards the developers, towards our balance choices. So that was a pretty crazy adventure. I think I learned a lot about it, about how to approach balancing games. I think my views on how to do it basically 180'd from the beginning of KI to the end. And I also learned a lot about how to decipher kind of the code of group speak. I'm gonna give you a great example of this. A lot of people are really mad at a certain thing, and they're rallying together to be mad together because they want change, right? Jago is too strong. His healing is through the roof. I did all that damage, and now he's got it back. I'm pissed, Iron Galaxy, what gives, right? And I think, maybe a less experienced developer will be like, I guess the healing's too much. They're all saying it's too much, let's reduce the healing. We did not do that. We instead took 4 months to really study Jago and figure out the root of the problem. We wanted to find the disease, not the symptom. Because we always had this feeling that the healing was a symptom. And when we really dug into it, we were like, okay, Jago doesn't have any bad matchups in the entire game. His worst matchup's a 5-5. Why is that? Jago's not weak anywhere on the screen, actually. He's only kind of weak mid-screen. He's really good full screen and he's really good up close. But as soon as he's mid-screen, he has this magical move called the wind kick, where he's immediately in your face and he's only like -2. So he can immediately get out of his worst distance in any matchup and be at his best distance. So we nerfed wind kick frame advantage. We didn't nerf the healing. We said, okay, medium and heavy wind kicks are more minus now. The heavy one's punishable, the medium one is sometimes punishable. And we told people why we did it in the patch notes, and they hated it. They all erupted. This is not what we asked for. We wanted you to nerf the healing. The healing is what was pissing us off. Why did you do this? Jago players are gonna have to rethink their game plan now, so they're pissed too. Everyone's big mad. And then a month and a half later, no one was complaining about Jago anymore. And new matchup charts were coming out, and Jago now had 4 or 5 bad matchups in the cast. Because we found the disease. The disease was that this character had no weakness on the screen. And I think developers really have to spend a lot of time trying to find the disease instead of listening to people crying about the symptoms, Oh, my head hurts. Well, that could be a headache or a brain tumor. We have to really dig into it and find out what the problem is and make smart choices that will keep the entire ecosystem kind of in harmony.
Isn't it crazy that a documentary from 2020 was able to perfectly describe the state of MultiVersus balance? Keats was so experienced and informed that he knew exactly what would happen if you balance too frequently and you give in to players. I understand why this is happening, and it's because the devs are trying too hard to please the players. They're just super nice people and they want what's best for the players or for the game. Their biggest flaw as a development studio legitimately is the cheesy answer you would give at a job interview. Oh, my greatest flaw? I guess I just care too much and work way too hard. That's genuinely Player First Games. And if anyone from Player First Games is watching this video, please listen to me. Most of the players who play your game are not experts on game design or balance. Listen to what they're telling you, but maybe don't take their specifics to heart. If someone says Velma's OP and they hate speech bubbles and they hate megaphone, keep in mind that Velma's probably strong, right? Especially if this is a common thing people are asking for. Instead of just outright nerfing speech bubbles, nerfing megaphone, take a look at Velma and diagnose what the disease is. Is it a headache or is it brain cancer, right? Then take your time with these updates. Now, I know this sounds extremely hypocritical coming from me because I'm also no expert on game design and I'm no expert on game balance. However, I'm not giving you my advice. This isn't what I would say to do. This is the advice from a developer that I have a lot of respect for, who has a lot of experience, so much experience that he was able to perfectly describe what would happen to a game that caters too much to a player base, and I'm just basically forwarding his message. MultiVersus is potentially headed into a very toxic future if the state of balance and the state of taking players' words as law doesn't change. Instead of learning matchups, adapting, and solving problems, we're headed to a future where players just whine, piss, and cry about characters they don't like fighting. Oh, all I need to do to beat the Iron Giant is run away from his bolts once he uses bolts, then combo him to hell once they've expired? Yeah, that sounds like work though. I think I'm just going to complain about him until he gets nerfed. How familiar does that sound? Think of it like this. Should parents always do what their kids ask? Absolutely not. If a kid tells their parents that they're hungry and they want McDonald's and ice cream, the parent shouldn't just give that dumb baby chicken nuggets and ice cream. The parent should take the message that the kid is hungry, then find a solution that involves at least one vegetable. If the kid wants to stay up all night playing video games the night before school, should the parents let them? No. If the kid wants to stay home from school and he's not sick, he just wants to play video games today, should the parents let them? No. This is how we get the spoiled, entitled brats that feel like the world revolves around them. It enables toxic and entitled behavior. I greatly admire player-first games, but they do need to be careful about how their openness could breed entitlement and toxicity in the MultiVersus community. Now, I would like to hear from you guys on this. Let me know if you have the same concerns as me in regards to balance. Do you think I'm in the right about the frequency of major balance changes, or do you think that I'm wrong? To be fair, just because I disagree with a style of game balance doesn't make it inherently bad, it's just my opinion on it. Although if you liked listening to me ramble about my opinion, go ahead and subscribe. I'm getting back into daily uploads after this video, and I would love to have more people on board. With all of that said, thank you for watching, and I'll smell you guys later.